Wherefore, Series 2, Episode 47. Roses flown in aeroplanes to celebrate the unfortunate death of a man who really didn't have anything to do with romantic love. Valentine's Day is a bit of a mystery to the Weaver. Most years, the cafes, pubs and restaurants fill up with people who are trying to make up for how unromantic they are the rest of the time. The Weaver finds traditional romance perplexing at best. At worst, it smells a bit too much like gift-wrapped feudalism. Sexist, heteronormative bullshit decked out in a really nice ribbon. Love isn't very much like romance. Love is much harder work. It is also wilder and unpredictable. It can be raw and bloody. It is not a good idea to measure love in terms of pain endured, but sometimes this is the only way. She has measured love in distance and time and tears until she thought it would wash away every last part of her. The east wind was so bitterly cold this winter. Her whole body is numb. The man in the moon has not wandered the sky in some time. He is not who he was. Love can also be measured in patience and in the kinds of transformations we are willing to accept for another's sake. Change can be terrifying, and love should not be measured in terms of the fear you have to overcome, but sometimes this is the only thing that makes sense. The Weaver never survives the winter. She always wears down to fragile last threads and falls apart entirely. This winter has not been unusual in that regard. The return journey has been a good deal slower than average. In this process, she has come to see how she is also part of the weave. It is not simply her weaving that makes her a participant. The threads of other lives run through her. She is tied to this place and connected to its people in ways that she did not understand before. She has wondered, in the past, about unpicking herself and leaving, not because there was ever somewhere better to go, but because she has no idea how to belong here. There are threads of poets in her heart. There are wizards and shapeshifters tangled into her being. The Ulites talk to her. The hills talk to her. All of the preposterous life of this place is in her heart. Perhaps love should be measured in threads and connections. How can you be a weaver and not love what you weave? But how can you love and weave and make magic in the world when your heart is threadbare? What is there to do but die in the dark part of the year until you can bear that no longer and must try again? I've suspected all along that this may be a story shaped by what happens to the Weaver. Will the Weaver survive? In the beginning, it seemed like a tale that would be largely about a character falling out of love with life and location and with themselves. I had not expected a happy tale, but I did not reckon on the impact of Professor Bob Fry's research. I did not know what the wizard Wigston would do in his odd and charming ways. Nor did I factor in that Wambleforth is a force to be reckoned with and has agendas of their own. This story has been full of surprises. During the tough winter days, the quiet wizard is there, quietly, offering words of hope and encouragement to the Weaver. This is an unexpected consequence of her choosing to be more visible. The Weaver did not anticipate comfort from that quarter. It is in the nature of weavers to think they know how everything will play out because they can see the threads. A weaver forgets at their peril that everyone is involved in making the weave and not everyone keeps moving onwards in the way their old patterns suggest. This winter has been full of shifts and changes. Nothing the Weaver assumed is necessarily true. The man in the moon has unwoven himself from his former way of being in the world. He has put down a story and unpicked more threads than the Weaver would have thought safe or possible. Yet here he is, unthreading, repatterning, taking his threads in his own hands and deliberately shaping his own future. She watches him weave and unweave, sees him pull on the threads of her own life, changing the pattern of her days. She has long seen herself as a lone, dark thread, winding unnoticed through the larger picture, useful but largely invisible. Where the man in the moon touches the threads of her life, he makes them glow a little. She is not who she was. The future is not as she imagined it. The east wind paints the skies with cloud pictures. The mornings are as blue and sharp as an azure dragon. The weaver feels his closeness alongside his distance. This was not a story that had come to an end after all. A new path unfolds, rich with colours, full of dreams and stories of what never was and might yet be. He makes chaos in the weave, and she cannot see where this future is heading or what they are making together. For the first time, it seems fine not to know. A predictable weave is a dull, lifeless thing. This winter, no one has really dared to weave much. A tapestry of people holding their breath and hoping to survive. Of course she is tired. Everyone is tired. The life in the weave lies in its uncertainty, in the rich possibility that could leap triumphant into a beautiful new form at any moment. The weaver remembers what it means to be alive and stops fighting to be in control. Valentine's Day. And the weaver is making hearts and roses out of air and bones and dreams. She will send them out into the world as best she can, ghosts of kisses for the other beings she depends on, for the wild and unruly entities who give her reason to live. The spring is coming. Life renews itself. Perhaps this is not a story about the final days of the weaver. It may be that this was a story about love all along. Love of place and community. Love of life itself. And that strange, transformative, magical love that dances life into new shapes. Perhaps love can be measured in hope and dreaming. Perhaps that was the answer all along.